Most Gen X parents made a silent promise. Their kids would never feel as alone as they did. Because when they were young, they came home to empty houses, empty kitchens, empty silence. And now, they're being told they care too much. Gen X was the generation told, go outside and be home when the streetlights come on. And that was it. No texts, no check-ins, no supervision. If you grew up in the late 60s, 70s, or early 80s, you probably remember walking into an empty house after school. Not because your parents didn't love you, but because they were working. Both of them. Between 1970 and 1990, the percentage of mothers with young children in the workforce jumped dramatically. For millions of kids, there was no one home. You were what they called a latchkey kid. You let yourself in, made your own food, solved your own problems, alone. And after a while, you stopped expecting anyone to be there. On the outside, it made you strong, independent, capable. But inside, it created something else. You learned not to need anyone. You learned not to ask for help. You learned to handle pain quietly. Because there was no other option. If something went wrong at school, you figured it out. If someone hurt you, you dealt with it yourself. No one was coming to rescue you. And that changes a child. Not always in visible ways, but in permanent ones. Fast forward to today. Gen X are now raising their own kids. And something unexpected happened. They didn't become their parents. They became the opposite. Not hovering, not controlling, but present. Some people call them stealth fighter parents. They don't interfere with everything. They let their kids struggle. They let them learn. But when something truly matters, they show up. Fully. Fiercely. Because they remember what it felt like when no one did. A psychologist named Diana Baumrind discovered something important about parenting. She found the healthiest parenting style wasn't strict. And it wasn't permissive. It was something in between. Warm, but with boundaries. Supportive, but still firm. Parents who say, I'm here for you, but your choices still matter. Kids raised this way tend to have higher confidence, better emotional control, less anxiety, stronger resilience. And without realizing it, this is exactly what many Gen X parents are trying to do. Because they know what happens when warmth is missing. Gen X grew up watching stability disappear. They saw layoffs, recessions, broken promises. They learned early. Nothing is guaranteed. So they're not trying to make life easy for their kids. They're trying to make their kids ready. Ready for disappointment. Ready for struggle. Ready for reality. But they're also trying to give them something they never had. Someone in their corner. Gen X parents are under pressure from both sides. Their parents think they're too soft. Their kids think they're too strict. They're stuck in between. Caring for aging parents. Supporting growing children. While carrying the emotional weight of both. They're tired. Not because they're weak. But because they're trying to break a cycle. While still carrying it. Gen X parents don't show up because it's easy. They show up because they remember. They remember the silence. They remember the loneliness. They remember wishing someone would notice. So now, they notice. They may let their kids fail. They may let them struggle. But when everything falls apart, they're there. Not to control them. Not to rescue them. But to make sure they're not alone. Gen X parenting isn't perfect. It's complicated. It's emotional. It's contradictory. They're trying to raise strong kids without raising lonely ones. Independent kids who still feel supported. They're taking the best parts of how they were raised and leaving the rest behind. And maybe that silent promise they made is the reason everything changed. If this story resonated with you, It's probably because you lived it. Or your parents did. This channel is about understanding the experiences that shape us. And the invisible patterns we carry forward. So if you want more stories like this, consider subscribing. Because sometimes, understanding your past is how you change the future.